Saturday was Chinese Lunar New Year, though you'd think it was Australia's National Day, judging by the reaction from many of our politicians. Have a listen to Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill.
Happy Lunar New Year, everyone, and welcome to the Year of the Dragon. This is going to be such a special year for our country.
Claire O'Neill's so excited about Chinese Lunar New Year, which is remarkable because most of the key Labor politicians said nothing on social media about Australia Day. Penny Wong, Tony Burke, Chris Bowen, Tanya Plibersek were all completely mute on January 26, yet all of those politicians posted on social media celebrating Chinese Lunar New Year. And of course, Melbourne, which cancelled the Australia Day parade, put on a big parade for the Chinese celebration. Have a look at this.
Chinese Lunar New Year celebrations taking over the city with a sea of red washing over Chinatown.
It's the longest continuous Chinatown in the Southern Hemisphere.
Symbols for wealth, prosperity and happiness in every corner, stall and parade.
What do you think of this?
It's fantastic. So many people. It's wonderful.
And then, of course, we had local governments, Caleb, with Clover Moore celebrating, with lots of photos with her celebrating Chinese New Year. The Liverpool Council spent $60,000 on Australia Day and $200,000 on Chinese Lunar New Year. What does this say about our political class and how they think about our country?
Well, Clover Moore specifically, before celebrating Lunar New Year, said about Australia Day it was a dark day that masks invasion. So we know exactly what she thinks about it. They are more than willing to celebrate diversity, quote unquote, and all these wonderful things. And I've got no problem with celebrating Lunar New Year. That's great. Get in all in on it. I couldn't give a toss. But when you are openly celebrating other nations and other part of the world's celebrations and not our own, it makes it very clear that the ultimate objective is to drive down the West and to amplify everything else. And it's exactly the same as Woolies, right? When they said, we're not going to sell any Australia Day merchandise. But you can go into Woolworths supermarket at the moment and they've got all the Lunar New Year stuff there. They had all the Diwali stuff there last year and they will again this year. It's much nicer and happier to talk about other nations and not our own because, it's a dark day and it's invasion, etc. The ultimate goal is to wind us down so we don't feel comfortable talking about ourselves, and then you find something else much more comfortable to replace it with.
But isn't it bizarre that a nation like China, which has a far darker history than ours, sorry, let's talk about Mao's China and how many bajillions they literally murdered in cold blood. Let's go back, let's talk about it now and how they lock up Australians when it suits them, certainly heaps of their own people who never see the light of day again if they ever talk over the regime narrative on anything. But we can celebrate those countries. Oh, we're so ashamed of our dark past. But other countries with far worse pasts, let's absolutely pay homage to those guys. I mean, can we just stop electing people who hate our country? Is that too much to ask, Australia? I think we can do it. I believe in us. Because that is what it comes down to. If people see our politicians, every politician in this country should have a flag outside their home waving proudly the Australian flag. They should be the good kind of nationalists who are like, I love this country. I would happily die for this country. That is why I chose to serve in your halls of power. That is what I'm here for. The fact that we've got this many, and they're not just no-name backbenchers. These guys are frontbenchers. Yeah. Sitting in our halls of power, making very important decisions on behalf of our nation, and they're making very clear where their priorities lie.
And it's not just our politicians, it's our corporations, as you mentioned, it's our sporting teams. I'm trying to convince Liz to give up on the Giants and support North Melbourne in the AFL, but I've got no chance, because look at what my football team, North Melbourne, did. They celebrated the Lunar New Year. Have a look at this tweet. I think we've got it. They said, Happy Lunar New Year to all who celebrate, wishing you a safe, healthy and happy year ahead. So that's wonderful. But look at what they did by contrast on January 26th. This was their post. We recognise the pain and sadness many First Nation peoples and the broader community may be experiencing at this time. We'll be stronger when we can celebrate the history of the country we call home on a date that unites us. I'm not sure what North Melbourne, now I love North Melbourne, but I'm not sure what they know about celebration. We've won 12 games out of the last 83.
Yeah, well.
And they're purporting to tell us that we ought not celebrate Australia Day till we've got it's just everywhere, and it's quite upsetting. And as you say, no one's got a problem with celebrating Lunar New Year. It's not that. It's the contrast with how our national Australia Day is treated. That's where the annoyance comes in.
And it's the same as the discussion we have every year about the war on Christmas, right? Like no one's offended by Christmas, but we have the anti-Western, self-loathing types who try to tell us that we should be concerned about. I'm telling you, no one is offended by Christmas. No one, well, there's a small group of people, but no one is really offended by Australia Day. Please, can we just get on with it?